This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Bob, Razorback basketball sounds like a frustrated bunch. They played hard. That's the first thing that we can say about yesterday's game. But couldn't even if some fans might put it on calls by the officials, it's not their fault from yesterday. Can't overcome all the fouls, all the turnovers. Can't find a way to win on the road, and it feels like a spiral right now, Bob.
Yeah, it was a rough loss. It looked like, they had it kind of like the Vanderbilt game. They were up only, their 10-point lead was much later against Missouri. I think they were up by 10 at Vanderbilt with like a little under 18 left, and then Vanderbilt kind of took over the game. And last night they had a 10-point lead with just over 5 minutes, or maybe a little under 5 by the time Missouri scored to cut it to 8, and couldn't hang on. I know the fouls are frustrating. I mean, for me they're frustrating, and all the video reviews just because it makes the game so dang long. Mm-hmm. Bottom line is you can't expect to get calls on the road. Teams come into Walton Arena, and I know a lot of them are probably upset because of the foul differential or the free throws. The thing that really killed them last night was the turnovers and the points off turnovers from Missouri. That's an area we've talked about this, that going into SEC play, Arkansas is just killing people on that. And in the SEC, it's been totally reversed. I mean, they're not just not winning that statistic. They're getting hammered, and last night it was 31-13. They're getting hammered for the most part, I should say. And so, ultimately you look back at it, and at the end of the game, after Missouri had tied it, Arkansas went down, and Jalen Graham, and I'm not putting the loss on him by any means, but he's a guy that hadn't played a lot, and he had a turnover. He was in there because I think he came in for Kamani. And then Devo Davis had a really good game in a lot of ways, 18 points, 9 boards, but 6 turnovers. And Anthony Black, who did a lot of great things. I think he had 15 points, 8 boards, 7 assists, but 5 turnovers. Those are your 2 primary ball handlers, have 11 turnovers. But Devo got a turnover, an offensive foul, and you can debate if that was a good call or not. And then you think about how the turnovers hurt him at all hurt him at Auburn too, hurt him at Vanderbilt, and hurt him against Alabama. And they're just having trouble closing out games. Teams are getting on these big runs on them at the end, but you do have, if you're, Eric Musselman and the coaching staff and fans, I think you have to like how they fought back and, played very competitively, because Eric Musselman basically called out their competitiveness after the Vanderbilt game, and he wasn't obviously not happy with the loss, but he has to be a lot happier with their competitiveness. And I know 1-5, it's obviously, a terrible start, but they are the only SEC team who's played 4 road games out of the first 6, and now they get 3 straight home games against Ole Miss and LSU, and I think it's A&M. And A&M's off to a great start, but Ole Miss and LSU are right down there with Arkansas at 1-5, so those are obviously winnable games, and really Arkansas has got to win them all at home from now on and try to steal a couple on the road. So the situation doesn't look good on paper right now, but I don't think it's too late for this team to make some noise.
Bob, you make a good point there. I thought this team played extremely hard. There was no lack of effort. But yeah, you're right on Jalen Graham late in the game. It's like, maybe don't be the first part. Maybe get your juices flowing, get the sweat flowing instead of that first play, and then you just kind of lose the ball. But man, they played hard. I like the way Ricky Council played, Devo played, Anthony Black played. I mean, Anthony Black was clearly the best player on the floor, which most nights he will be. But if they weren't playing hard, it might be a different thing we're sitting here talking about today.
Yeah, I see. You have to like the effort. I'll tell you one thing. Jordan Walsh, that guy had really struggled in SEC play, and it kind of blew my mind when I looked at the stats. I think it was Monday. He was 1 of 17 on threes in SEC games. I'm not trying to pound on him or pile on him. He's really seems like a really good kid. I think he plays hard. He's obviously got a lot of talent, but he had really struggled offensively after having some pretty good games against OU and Bradley. And even LSU, he didn't shoot well, but he scored 13 points. I think he had 8 or 9 boards. And he was really struggling. Came off the bench. I think Eric was trying to take some pressure off him. He brought him off the bench at Vandy, and he went scoreless and 0 for 6. And, man, last night he literally could not miss. He was 4 of 4 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3, 2 of 2 from the line, 12 points in 13 minutes, and Arkansas was a plus 13 with him on the court. The only problem was he had 5 fouls. He only got to play 13 minutes, and he had just hit a 3 and had a dunk to give him one of those 10-point leads, and then he picked up his 5th foul. I don't think he had to have played 40 minutes, but if he'd played, say, 22, 23, the way he was playing, I really think Arkansas wins that game. And as much as it hurt to lose, Kamani and Devo, and I guess it was Mekhi Mitchell who fouled out on what looked like a horrible call. I've seen the replays on that. He didn't was in the same area code as it was Golston. Golston went down like a punter trying to sell a roughing penalty, or maybe he just lost his balance, but I sure don't think he got fouled. But anyway, I thought losing Walsh with about, I think it was over maybe 6 minutes to play, I thought that was huge because he was playing so well. And that's another thing, that Arkansas, obviously he's got a foul less, but that's another positive for Arkansas. I think if Jordan Walsh going, this could be a whole different team.
Yeah, he is really athletic. The thing is, he's got to be smarter. I mean, we're playing with effort, but there's no excuses to play 13 minutes and pick up 5 fouls. You got. Those are just. He's a little too straight up. Bend a little bit more on your defensive end, and I know some of those fouls are bad, but man, you do us no good if you're sitting on the bench and you can't play. That's that's something that's going to come with maturity. He'll figure that out.
Yeah, he just, like you say, he's got to play a little smarter. I think he's a really good – that's one thing through all his offensive struggles, and those may be at an end. Maybe he can get it going now, but I always thought he's been a good defensive player.
He's a heck of a player. I love some Jordan Walsh. They're just freshmen, It's just he'll get better, man. He's going to make a lot of plays for us.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, if he can get it going, that would be a huge plus for this team. And the thing is, these days, how long guys are going to be around. It's a little different, but
you think he can play in the NBA next year, Bob? I don't think Jordan's going anywhere.
No, I don't think he can play in the NBA. But
not this next year. Yeah, like eventually.
Yeah, he might get drafted in the G League. It just seems to me, and you have a better feel for this as a former pro athlete, but it's almost like the NBA. If you're, quote, a sophomore, you're over the hill or something, some of these guys.
Oh, hogwash. You can play or you can't. And these, don't think this theory about trying to get there earlier that's so dumb, man. Stay here, be your guy, work on your craft, and work on it, man.
And make some money here while you're at it.
Yeah, you're getting paid now. You want to go on the G League and be on a Greyhound bus, or you want to be in first class and be an Arkansas Razorback?
No, I agree. I'm not saying he's ready for the NBA. I don't think he is, nor should he go to the NBA. I'm just saying sometimes guys, listen to other people. But
I got you.
He'd be Arkansas if he was back. But yeah, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent there. But
my sense is that he needs to stay on the court more. He needs to stay.
We need him, exactly. We need him on the floor, Phil. No question.
But the fouls are one aspect of it, Bob. I mean, there were 14 turnovers from the backcourt yesterday. They're getting killed on turnovers in SEC play. They've been outscored. Get a load of this. They've been outscored points off turnovers, 127-50 in the 6 SEC games. I mean, you cannot turn the ball over as often as they are, especially when it's coming from your ball handlers, and expect to win a basketball game.
Yeah, it's also they've given up 36 free throws, 36 and 40 in the last 3 games. And you can argue about, home cooking, that's why I think I know that after Arkansas beat Missouri 74-68 a couple weeks ago, their coach, Dennis Gates, he didn't just flat out criticize the officiating, but he basically said they weren't getting the calls in the second half; they were getting in the first half, and that's just kind of life on the road in the SEC or pretty much any conference, probably. But I mean, 40 is pretty ridiculous, and to lose 4 guys to fouls, Eric said that never happened to him before. I mean, and most of them were very late in the game, but yeah, you had an odd lineup out there on the court. I will say another plus I thought last night was Darian Ford's play because of the fouls in the first half. He got some pretty good minutes, and he had 4 points, played good defense, and so maybe some of these guys are getting different chances. I mean, Pena went in there and got 2 fouls pretty quick. They had a pretty quick whistle on a lot of things, and I guess I just like to see less fouls in general. It just hurts the flow of the game, whether it's Arkansas or Missouri. But yeah, so I think there's some things. I mean, as bad of a loss as that was, and as frustrating as it was, I think if you're Arkansas right now, you got to try to build on some positives. And these next 3 games at home, I mean, that's really big for them. They, people may think, assuming they beat Ole Miss, big whoop. Ole Miss is 1-5 too. But if you're going to start coming back, you got to start.
Hey, the
somewhere.
win streak starts Saturday, Bob. Yes, sir.
Matter. It doesn't matter who you just got to score more points than whomever it is that's in front of you.
Yeah.
You got to start. I mean, look, we've looked at these last couple of games. We're like, man, they got to win. Man, they got to win. You know what? Saturday is as must-win of a game as there has been in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss just won at South Carolina. They're not a bad team. Kermit Davis is a good coach, so that's definitely not a gimme for Arkansas. They desperately need that win, and they can't take anything for granted right now or be choosy. They just need to start winning some games, and if and when that happens, I think they'll get some confidence back, and maybe can get on a roll. I'm not trying to be, pie in the sky. I'm just looking at realistically the schedule. And it's funny, I asked Eric about, last night about getting 3 straight home games, and he started talking about road games at the end of Tennessee and Alabama. He didn't really want to hear any of the sunshine stuff or whatever. But the schedule does set up where there's some winnable games coming up, and if they can win those, then I think they can get the season back on track. But the thing is, they got to go out there and take them. Ole Miss isn't going to give them anything. Ole Miss is desperate to win, too. This is a huge year for Kermit Davis. And so I expect a tough game. I think they're all going to be tough, from here on out. Obviously, they've been tough so far.
Man, Bob, it feels to me like, I know, kind of must at times, and every head coach does this. They answer a question, and sometimes it's like they ask their own question. They answer past the question that's been asked to them. If given the opportunity, Muss would explode on the officiating in the SEC, and that would mirror what we're seeing from the fan base right now. They feel like the team's being targeted.
There's a vendetta against Muss. Like he's got, I don't know what's going on, but he's rubbed somebody the wrong way or something, and it seems like there is. Like, to me, just the outside, it's like, what are some of these fouls, man? It's ridiculous.
Well, I will say the 5th foul on Malik Mitchell, I just did not see that at all. It looked like, he didn't get within a foot of, I think it was Golston on the baseline. He had a tough bank shot. But you can see some, frustration creeping in, and that's a tough situation. But that's just some, another factor on the road you got to overcome. And Arkansas has done that a lot in the past, and they're going to have to do it again now if they're going to, put a good season together after this really rough SEC start.
Bob, what do you think about Dan Enos, hired as the offensive coordinator before the ink is dry on Kendall Briles' contract at TCU? It's been an interesting 24, 48, 72 hours, what have you.
Yeah, has TCU even announced Kendall Briles yet?
Nope.
I'm not sure. Arkansas officially announced Dan Enos, so for Kendall Briles' sake, I hope he's got the TCU job. I think he does, but. Yeah, obviously this TCU thing has been going on for a while, and with Kendall seemingly flirting with every program out there, I'm sure Sam Pittman had a short list of guys in his pocket that he wanted to replace him with. And when it became pretty clear yesterday that Kendall Briles was leaving for TCU, Dan wasn't necessarily a guy whose name immediately came to mind, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I think he's a really good offensive coordinator. I enjoyed covering him when he was here. I thought he had good offenses and good game plans. And Brandon Allen, who I think is one of the best quarterbacks ever first, right up there with Matt Jones.
No, Brandon Allen's better than I wish I was half the quarterback Brandon Allen was. He's a stud.
Well, you guys were different. Brandon probably wishes he could run like you did, but he really made Brandon Allen. Obviously, Brandon's hard work too, but they were a really good team. Me and Brandon and Dan. And I'm sure if you talk to Brandon about Dan Enos, he would speak very highly of him. And then Dan and Sam worked together. Dan was actually a head coach. I think it was at Central Michigan, and Brett made a pretty inspired hire, Brett Bielema, to bring Dan in as an OC in the SEC. And Dan was with Maryland's a Big Ten team now. He worked very briefly for Nick Saban there for a while and worked in Miami. So I think it's a really good hire, and I think he'll do a good job. And obviously, Sam had been working on this for a couple of days, at least, maybe longer. And Kendall Briles, hey, he did a really good job as the offensive coordinator. I know he made some head-scratching calls every once in a while, but 90% of the time, I thought he did a really good job. And but I don't feel like, oh my gosh, they can't win. Kendall Briles left. I think Dan's a really good hire. And honestly, I may be wrong, I don't remember Dan ever being up for other jobs when he was here. Now, things may happen behind the scenes, but one thing about Kendall that I think maybe wore out the fan base, and maybe Sam for that matter, is he just seemed like he was always mentioned with for other jobs. And in some ways that's good. You want a guy that other people want, but you don't want his name connected all the time, at least I wouldn't. And then you feel like you did some things and you sort of, fought off Mississippi State or whatever. And then 2 weeks later, here he is talking with TCU. And I get that's the world we live in. And, Clemson hired TCU's coordinator. So there's just a chain reaction of people getting replaced. Now Maryland's got to replace Dan, but I guess the bottom line is I think it's a good trade-off for Arkansas. Maybe it's time for Kendall to move on. I think Dan will do a really good job for him.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.